IOM-FM. Hello. Welcome to I Am Wisdom with your host Katrina Cavanough. I Am Wisdom is all about the connection between mind work and energy work, spirituality, and finding easy, everyday ways to heal your life. Katrina Cavanough is a qualified therapist and one of Australia's leading intuitives and spirituality coaches. Katrina will be taking your calls and bringing you some special guests. Settle in, relax, and enjoy the healing on I Am Wisdom with Katrina Cavanough on OMTimes Radio.
Good morning. It's Monday morning here in Australia at about 9 o'clock, and it's 5 p.m. over there in the United States, Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to I Am Wisdom. I am your host, Katrina Cavanough, and this is the home of everyday wisdom for your life, because that's what it's really about. My role, or part of what I'm here to do, I think, in life is to take the woohoo out of intuition or psychic ability or spirituality or whatever you want to call all that stuff, and really bring it to a place where you find it accessible. The everyday person finds it accessible because it is absolutely an essential ingredient to all that we are. So welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about the connection between death, dying, and happiness, which is tricky because most people associate death and dying with sadness, understandably so. So our topic for today's show is, what has death and dying got to do with happiness? And I'm going to share with you some of my reflections on that. Before we get into our show today, I want to remind everyone that I have a Facebook page, and I'd like you to pop on over and like my page. So that's facebook.com/Katrina Cavanough. And I'm also on Instagram, but I haven't worked out yet how to let you know about that. So I'm just stepping over to Instagram. It feels like a really good place to be, and over the next week or so I'm working out how to use it. So it takes me a little while to work these things out. It doesn't really actually take me a little while. It's not that the time that it takes is a reflection of how much time it actually takes me to do it. It's more of a reflection on how much time I have, because these days what I'm doing is I'm living a much more balanced lifestyle. I'm someone who, is working clinically as a therapist with children who've experienced trauma, and also adults who've experienced trauma, and I do grief work with people and relationship therapy. Additionally, I have the other side, and that's all mainstream work. And the other side of my business right now or the work I do with people, is what I refer to as my KatrinaCavanagh.com. But that's my, coaching, intuitive coaching, relationship therapy mixed in with intuitive coaching. It's the courses I'm running, which I'll talk a bit about in a moment. It's my writing. It's my completely being of service to you, soul to soul, from a perspective of working with you holistically, I guess you could call it. So that is, working with you at a mind level and an energy level as well, working with you in your relationships, and most importantly with yourself. The most important relationship we have with ourselves is with ourselves, and then also in your relationships with others and the way you see the world, because the way you see the world determines a lot about how you feel about hope. So that's a huge part of what I do. So in addition to all of that, with my writing, I also I've got my radio show here now, and then I'm also working on some very, very special projects with some schools to do with supporting children around. And so I've got a very special project announcement coming up soon. As soon as I have my pilot in place, I'll let you know, as well as my writing for Maria Shriver, now OMTimes obviously, and my wonderful role here in Australia as the spirituality and intuition coach on Balance by Deborah Hutton. Now that's a beautiful role, and I'm very grateful for that role, as I'm grateful for everything. So I'm a busy girl. So why? Because I'm so busy, it means things like learning Instagram. I can't always give it the amount of time it deserves, and but anyway, we'll get there with that, because you know what? I see myself through a lens of kindness these days, and I'm doing all my busy things, but I'm also incorporating really beautiful, meaningful time with family where I'm not distracted with my phone and sending a text here and sending a message there. it's about doing that, and it's also about literally having some moments where I just stop. And my body called me to do that. It all came together for me really over the course of last year. And at the end of the year, I was feeling really unwell. And this is something that not many people know about, but I'll share it with you now just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek about getting that balance. And then we'll get on with the show. So towards the end of last year, I was feeling quite physically unwell. I was having neurological symptoms where I was having, numbness and in my face and scalp. I was feeling quite physically unwell, lots of dizzy spells. And at one point, I was on a consult with a client. I actually lost my speech. This is a long-term client, so we had a good relationship. And yeah, just not lost my speech as in I couldn't speak, but like my speech changed. I wasn't able to pronounce my words. Uh, so I came to realize that I was overdoing it, and the lack of sleep and the lack of wind down time, as we call it in our house, was not enough. I went and saw a wonderful, had a medical review, of course, because I believe in the balance of mainstream medicine and alternative medicine. And then, of course, I went to a woman that's a wonderful woman. Her name is Mary, and she's in Berry, and she's a physiotherapist, which is a beautiful little cottage-style township here close to the coast in Australia. And she did some wonderful acupuncture with me and gave me some wonderful herbs, and then off I went. I really experienced a lot of healing, and that coupled with catching up on sleep, well, gosh, there you go, it did wonders. So that's why sometimes things I do take a little bit longer these days, but I'm okay with that because I need to be able to get life in balance and still respond to all the amazing, wonderful opportunities that are before me, but do so in a really balanced way. And the gift that that's given me, gosh, I can't tell you, it's been absolutely delightful. So I'm not sure why I'm even telling this story right now because it certainly wasn't on my schedule. I've kind of diverted off my plan for today's show. I'm just going to trust though that there might be someone out there now that's listening who is a high achiever like me, who has big dreams and big goals and a great deep desire to be of service to people. And they're working really hard. I mean, I've been working on average 12 to 14-hour days. So they're working really hard. They're putting their heart, mind, body, and soul into their work, into their commitment to people and helping people in their vision for their life. And I want to say to you, that's good. And there's a season for that. But when your body starts talking to you, really, I encourage you to listen because if you don't listen, then you'll end up with a whole range of symptoms, which is, what we all do. I had to have a little bit of a check over, what is it within me that was still driving me to work that hard? And so I've done a lot of personal work, particularly over the last few months, and obviously every day. I mean, you never stop learning. And I've come to realize so many things about myself again, another layer of awareness and understanding, which is what life's about, right? It's about those layers and layers and layers of understanding. So I guess I'm sharing this with someone out there. Someone out there needs to hear this story, and I want to talk to you about finding your way forward to really listen to your body, listen to what it's saying to you, and then make the necessary changes in your life because I'll tell you what's happened. Nothing's really changed. I still have all the amazing opportunities before me. I'm able to meet those deadlines. It's unbelievable, but it feels so much easier. I feel so much more at peace. I no longer feel encumbered by this drive to get this done and this panic that I'm not getting things done. It's okay. It's all fitting in nicely. And of course, the work is flowing. The opportunities to be of service are flowing. My awareness of my capacity to be of service is flowing. My experience of my intuition is, I feel increasing and even more accurate these days, which of course, would make sense. So, I mean, I think I was okay before, but, I was able to be of service, but something shifted on an even deeper level there. So I'm very grateful to that. So that's for someone. I don't know who that's for, but we're just going to trust that whoever's listening, that's for you. Later on in the show, I will be doing some intuitive consultations where for people who've sent in their questions to me, and they've done that via my Facebook page. So if you want to get on the list of intuitive questions, I'm actually going to encourage. I'm going to put that question this time. I'm going to put it up after today's show, so it's going to be sitting there all week. This not that I don't have plenty of people to refer to, but I need to do that for a few scheduling reasons. So I'll be doing that. So look out for that. There's a post where I say, do you have a burning question or what is your question or something like that I say. So do you have a burning question? That's what I say. So I'm going to, I'll put your questions here, I think I worded as. So there'll be a few people today that have already written in, and I'll be talking to them directly later on in the show and answering their questions. So, and if you would be like to be on the next list, then jump online to my Facebook page for the one that I put up today, and I'll put the date for the show that I'll be speaking to you on, so we can make that easy reference. So yeah, that's what's happening. I might do a couple of more of announcements, then we'll go to a break, and then when we come back after the break, I'll start talking to you about the relationship between death, dying, and happiness. I know it's a funny thing, isn't it? You wouldn't think that they're connected, but they are. So I want to mention a couple of announcements. The first thing I want to say is if you are a listener to this show, to I Am Wisdom, you can contact me. And today I'm offering a special offer where if you book a consultation with me, now the normal price point for that is $220 Australia and US. And what we do with that is that consultation will run for about 60 to 90 minutes, okay? So if you book a consultation with me today, not today, but after as a result of being a listener on this show, I'm going to give you a 25% discount if you remind me. So when you book your consultation, go to my webpage, which is katrinacavanough.com, go to the contact page and contact me and say, I would like to book a consultation. I'm one of your listeners on I Am Wisdom, and you will get a 25% discount on the $220 intuitive consult, okay? So take me up on that offer. The other message I have for you is I have two, for those who live locally in Australia and New South Wales, I've got two courses coming up here in my local area down in Shell Harbour. There are two courses. The first one is Intuition and Spirituality, a first course, it's development, and that is on the 22nd of March, a full day course. It's all about really supporting you to make that connection with your spiritual team, and feel a greater sense of your own intuition, soul-to-soul communication, mediumship. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that after the break. I'll tell you, it's a wonderful day. The last day we had, it was absolutely splendid. I loved every single second of it. So did the people. And for that reason, we've organised a follow-on course. But for now, stick with me, and I'll be back after the break. Thank you for listening.
Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com. and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, it's Katrina Cavanough here, and you're listening to I Am Wisdom. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about what has death and dying got to do with happiness. Now, before we get into that, I just want to finish my little announcements. Remember, anyone who is listening who would like to book a consultation with me via Skype for those who live overseas in other countries, and for those who live in Australia, again, it can be Skype or it can be in person if you're close to me where I live, which is in a beautiful coastal area just south of Sydney called Wollongong. So, and you can book me in person. So if you're a listener and you'd like to book a consultation with me, normally the price point for that is $220. But as a listener to this show, I'm offering for a period of time, just for those listening to today's show, which is the topic of death, dying, and what's it got to do with happiness. For you, there's a 25% discount for you, okay? And so later on in the show, I've got four people I'm going to be answering their question to. So those people will be Ari, Michelle, Melissa, and Fran. And Susan, I got your question, but I did have a commitment I would do top three. If I can fit you in, I'm going to. But otherwise, Susan, we may have to put you forward to the following week. So what I'm going to ask you to do is look out for my next announcement and jump on board when you see that. And we'll pop you in there. Okay. If you get, please, but that you need to register your question again, because otherwise it's hard for me to carry over questions, as you can appreciate. That's the job for my PA when I finally get one. Again, yes, Cassandra, I miss you. So what I'm wanting to do now is I'm wanting to finish telling you about my little announcement. So I've got the two courses coming up. One is Intuitive Wisdom. It's Intuition and Spirituality. Sorry, wrong. It's Intuition and Spirituality. It's a beginner's development course. I call it a first course, because the truth is so many of us are out there, we're very spiritual and intuitive. It's a really coming together. It's for people who are looking to strengthen their relationship with their spiritual team, who perhaps are like the way I work with spirituality, my style of intuition, my perspective on how I see things, which is I'm really wanting to support people to have an everyday experience, where they can help themselves and help others make everyday decisions. But also, if you want to include in your life connection with the non-physical world, soul to soul communication, or mediumship as it's commonly known, then this is a great course for you to come along and find more information out about that. We're certainly about, taking some really concrete steps that day in doing that. It's also about, like I said, connecting you with your spiritual team, finding your own divination style, because we all like to have a sense of being able to look forward and see what happens, what is it based on what we're currently thinking and feeling now, what's for us in the future. And it's just a wonderful day to share time with good like-minded people, to be honest. The next day that I have coming up is on the 12th of April. And it's a second course is what I'm describing it. So it's about empowering your sense of your intuition. And that day we'll be doing even more work on deepening your connection with your spiritual team, of course, and then also more work on soul-to-soul communication. We're going to be spending time there on looking at the connection between your other lives, or as many people like to refer to them, past lives, and how you can draw from your experiences in your past life and bring them into your current life. And really, really expand your experience in your current life of areas that you'd like to address. Things like abundance and good health and better relationships and better sense of self. So I did actually write an article about that, published in New Dawn magazine, which is available worldwide, and it's about the transitory nature of our lives. Sorry, the interconnection between our lives, all our lives that are happening all at once. But that's a whole nother show, isn't it? We can talk about that soon. So that day is going to be about that. It's about past loves. We'll do some dream reflection and work, and also just you getting really clear about the way you want to experience your own spirituality as well. So really further enhancing that. And again, a big theme I have through both workshops is working on your own sense of self-doubt, and those moments when we do feel disconnected from our senses, our spiritual self. A significant component of day 2, which is the one on the 12th of April, the second course workshop, is it's all about really being aware of who you are spiritually, who you are energetically, and using the power of that information to realize that you do not need to be in the flow, because you, wonderful you, are actually the flow. So when I do meditation, I don't focus on getting in the flow. I focus on my awareness that I am the flow. I am the same energy as God, the universe, source, whatever. So that's a big theme throughout both of the workshops. So if this appeals to you, come along. the price point is $135 for the day. It's BYO lunch, although we provide a beautiful, yummy morning tea and afternoon tea. And it's at Shell Harbour Yoga Centre. So if you'd like to come along on those days, just come along to my, just email me at connect@katrinacavanough.com, KATRINACAVANOUGH.com. Okay, whew, that's the announcements. I want to say, how are you today? I'm listening. I'm listening. Oh, mixed. We've got a few mixed. We've got some goods. We've got some listenings. We've got some reflecting on relationships, people. I can feel it. Someone's out there reflecting on a relationship with parents, actually. Who's that? Anyway, I'll have to do a show on that, actually, bringing in both my experience as a therapist and my intuition and knowledge of energy and mind work around our family of origin. I'll make a note of that. Any ideas that you have for shows that you'd like me to do? Here I am. I bring to the table my experience as a therapist for 22 years, and my experience with the the non-physical world, my intuition, and my deep desire to be of service to you. So if there's things that you think you'd like me to explain more in maybe the things I mentioned in the show, then please don't hesitate to get on to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Katrina Kavanagh, and like my page, and then send me some messages. Okay. All right. So let's get going. Today we're going to be talking about what has death and dying got to do with happiness. So the first thing I want to talk about is that I know from my experience with over 400 deaths in an emergency department, or an ER as you call it over there in the States, in hospital. What I know from my experience of those deaths is that it's not how we think it's going to be. Okay? So we all feel very, very frightened of death, and that's completely natural. And for me right now, based on my experience, I'll share this with you. I am no longer frightened of death and dying. I know that every single death is gentle. Every single death is gentle. Okay? When I talk about that at my workshops, I can literally feel a collective sigh in the room, a sigh of relief knowing that death is actually gentle. Now, to give you the context, I need you to know that my experience of death has been with people who have died suddenly, tragically, unexpectedly, and traumatically, if I didn't mention that word. So these are people who've died in horrendous car accidents. They've died through their own hand with suicide. These have been children who have died, babies who have died in utero, and babies who have died who have lived for a little while. These have been young people who have died as a result of accidental drug and alcohol overdose. And also people who've died of heart attack, stroke, workplace accidents. These are people who woke up one day and thought they had their life ahead of them, and by the end of that day they'd passed. And some of them died as a result of homicide. Okay. So what I'm knowing and understanding as a result of this experience is that I know, because I've been shown so many times, that despite the fact that these deaths may be what we perceive to be violent, sudden, painful, that the experience of death for each and every single one of us is a gentle process. Sometimes that means that our soul leaves our body before the body has actually died. Many times I've stood bedside with family, and alongside of me I've been aware of the presence of the person who was dying, the soul presence, the energetic presence, and they rested with us and watched their own body take its last breath. So it's profound, right? It's kind of hard to understand. So many times I've sat in, for example, I was never sitting, by the way, stood, I was sitting when I was talking to people, but not in the hospital, ER. Sometimes I've stood with with the medical team in the resus room when a person was moving in and out of life, that they were the medical team were around them desperately trying to keep life within that person. And it's a strange contrast, right? Because I'm there and I'm aware of the calm but urgent nature of the medical team as they work very hard. Okay. I'm also aware then of the family and loved ones who are struck so deeply in emotional pain by what's happening right now to their loved one. And yet at the same time, I'm aware of the spiritual softness and lightness and compassion and love-filled, nurturing space of what's happening in the non-physical. It's such a phenomenal contrast of experiences. And tricky to describe, but I'm trying to give you my best example that I can give you with the limitations of these crazy things that we call words that are so wonderful yet difficult, you know. So I know, I know that that's what death is like. And so for me, I'm not afraid of death. I'm sad about the loss not for me, because I know when I'm in spirit that I'm going to feel, I know the feeling I'll have. I'm sad about the sadness that people who care about me will feel when they're left behind. So of course my mind and heart go straight to my children. So I'm sad about that because that's the human part of me that's still sad, right? And I don't want them to, you never want your children to suffer, so I don't want them to suffer. But what I know is that death is gentle, and I know that it's soft, and I know that whilst we all feel so afraid of it, that there's nothing to fear about it. And if I can reassure you of nothing but that today, then I feel like I've made a significant, I feel I've been of significant help, right? And it'll make this whole radio show thing worth it. If, 10 people hear or one person or whoever, man, it doesn't matter, hear this message that death and dying is gentle, and there is nothing to be afraid of. I really want you to know this. You've got to think I've done this hundreds of times over. I've been aware hundreds of times over. Death and dying there's nothing to be afraid of. What I know though is I know that for me, being so up front and close to so many deaths, it began to show me so much about what's important about living. And as the souls reflected with me, they gave me so many insights. And it's those insights that I'm going to share with you after the break. Stick with me. It's taken a little bit to get to what we need to share today, but we trust the process too. Stick with me. I'm going to talk about those things after the break. You're listening to I Am Wisdom with Katrina Cavanough.
For conscious minds. OMTimes.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Hi, you're listening to I Am Wisdom with Katrina Cavanough. Welcome to the show if you're just tuning in. And I'm really grateful that you're listening with your wonderful ears. Now, what a miracle that is, ears. I mean, gosh, how exciting is that? I've had some people come and join my page, so I want to welcome you all to my page. And on this page, we share lots of lovely information and quotes, and it's really just a beautiful page, a beautiful community. My core values, I would have to say, are kindness and compassion, gentleness to ourselves, and sharing and nurturing, and for me, being of service to you. Okay, so welcome to my page. And if you'd like to be part of that page, then I'm encouraging you to come on over. So we were just talking about death and dying and the process. And I guess what I'm hoping is that I think if more and more people can have an understanding of death, then it will shift the way we then experience life. It will shift it on two different levels. One is that there's a few things that we do need to understand about death. One is the first thing, which is that death is gentle, that there is actually nothing to fear. Okay? So if you think about it, if we can take that fear, this is the thing that it is a common experience we are all going to have, right? We're all going to die. So, and there are so many people that are fearful of it. So if we can take away, if I can give you some gentle reassurance that that death is not something to be feared, then it may free you up a little bit to live life in a state of ease and relaxation. The other thing that if we can understand about death from a physical plane perspective is that, when we lose someone, it is natural to feel sad. And the grief process is something that, again, is another show in itself. But the grief process is something that technically really we don't do that well here in the Western world. So what I would love to see us in as a way of understanding death and dying and the meaning it has for all of us in our life, if we could allow ourselves enough time and enough energetic space and give ourselves enough permission, right, in our own self. That's where it starts. And then we give some permission to others as well to feel sad, to go through a healing process, and then very gently return to all that life has to offer. Because what happens is when we allow ourselves to grieve properly, what happens is we then, when we allow ourselves to grieve properly, what happens then is we emerge out of the experience a person with a different perspective on life, okay? And therefore, we experience life differently. So if we've got a combination of we shift our fear around death itself, we allow ourselves to grieve, so that we can experience the grief process and then emerge out of it in a beautiful pace that's supportive and kind and gentle. Because when we can go at our own pace, we can emerge through the grief process, come out the other side as someone who has a new version of themselves. Okay? The other thing that I would love people to understand about death and dying, and this is the one that's having the people find frightening, is that I know that one of the wisdoms that the souls asked me, I think I was meant to share with you, is that concept of the only moment we have now. And one of the key themes in that wisdom is an awareness that from the spiritual world or the non-physical world, a life is a life is a life. And it's actually our expectation. See, we all come onto the planet with a full expectation that we will live 10 and, full life and all that kind of stuff. But what I know for sure and certain is that a life can be a few weeks, a life can be a few minutes, a life can be only in utero, a life can be, 30 years, 29 years, it can be 45 years, it can be 80 or 90 years. It can be any length of time, but from the non-physical world, that is still a life. It is us, I guess, that has the value placed on it about the missing out of a life when someone dies young, understandably. So if we live with an awareness of all of those things, we understand that death is not frightening. We understand that death for the physical, those of us on the physical plane, mean that we have a grief process that we need to move through, and there's, like I said, a whole lot of elements to that. But then we also add to that an understanding that life is what we have today. It means that we might live life differently. So I guess the question I have is, what if our understanding about death was so vast that it then, and like as we understand all those elements and those points, that understanding then inspired us to embrace life in a whole new different way? This is powerful stuff. This is powerful stuff. And if all you take from this show, again, is this concept of, when we consider all those elements of death and dying, what does all of that mean for our life now? Well, I feel like, again, I've done a magnificent thing, because when we consider all those elements, even that the single point of, the moment we have is now, it really places us at a crossroads where we can choose to live life in a state of more worry and fear about all that, or you can use the information that I'm sharing with you now, that death is gentle, that the grief process is absolutely understandable and normal, and you will come out the other side with a renewed sense of life. It is possible, and that when we live with an awareness that life can be, it may be 5 years, it may be 10 years. We never know which day is our last. When we live with that awareness, we can also use that as a springboard to bounce into a really magnificent life. Because people who live with this type of understanding about death and dying and what it means for us in this life live differently. We live with a greater hunger for life. We cherish each moment so much more deeply. And this is the kind of message that I would love for you to take from today's show. Okay, so that then naturally leads to there's 3 points that I want to talk about what does the understanding of death and dying have to do with happiness. When we hold the understanding that I've just talked about, it means that we are more encouraged, we are more inspired, we are more, what's the word? We are more likely to live with an absolute awareness of the current moment, that how important it is to be present in the moment, okay? We're also likely to live a more compassionate life. Just think that through. We're also, when we see our life through a lens of understanding, we know that death is gentle, we know that grief is normal and understandable, and we need to move through it, so we're more compassionate there, yeah? And then we move into another area of understanding about death and dying. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Whoops, that's what happens when you're on radio sometimes. Anyway, when we see and understand death as it really is, then we really can come from a much more compassionate place. Most importantly, towards ourselves. Most importantly, towards ourselves, because if we realize that the only moment we have now, the only moment we have is now, then we have a choice, right? We can either be really mean and nasty and cruel to ourselves in this moment, which I think the majority of us, or certainly those who are listening to this show, does not want to be, or we can in that moment choose to live in a state of ease. We can choose to look at the things that are fueling and dragging us down into a place of negativity and really address them. We can look at, what do we need to change about our thinking and our feeling? What do we need to change about our understanding? What needs to be healed in our life so that this moment we have is a moment spent purposefully, either in a state of healing or a state of ease, or both, obviously, right? So I think these are all the things that an understanding of death and dying can give us. It invites us to live in a most magnificent version of ourselves. It invites us to really understand the quality of life and the quality of every moment. So I guess for me, in my experience, what I know for sure is, when I'm being present in the moment, when I'm being mindful of myself as all that I am, and when I'm being mindful of all that I'm wanting to give others, then the rest kind of just literally flows away. The rest is actually superfluous. Okay, so it also lends myself to be more compassionate. It means that I do things like I become really mindful of my thoughts, because one of the things that I know for sure and certain, one of the gifts that my understanding of death and dying has given me, and one of the messages I got really clearly when I was communicating with the souls of those who were passing over, was that our thoughts matter. Our thoughts matter profoundly. And not in a sense so much, I mean, certainly as a therapist, I've known that for years. We all practice CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. We know that our thoughts lead to our feelings, lead to our behavior, and all that kind of stuff, right? And look, that's a very powerful therapy. Really, it's very research-based, and there's a lot of evidence to say that it makes great change in our lives. But my understanding, what the souls were trying to show me, and what my experience with over 400 deaths has shown me, is that it's even more profound. It's even more profound than a simple understanding of that our thoughts matter. Okay, because let me give you an example. When I'm with a client who's working through their grief, okay, we can talk about the way their thoughts determine their experience. Okay, and of course that's really applicable on a surface level. But what I've been shown is beyond the thoughts that we're having about the grief, right? The way we're making sense of our grief or whatever it is we're dealing with in life. It's the thoughts that we have about ourselves that matter the most. And I've talked about this already in previous shows, so you all know I'm passionate about this, okay? So it's the thoughts we have about ourselves that matter the most. I cannot say this enough. So the pressure that we feel to grieve in a certain way, which is in the Western world usually quickly, quietly, and in an orderly fashion, please, that leaves no room for the way grief naturally happens, because grief is painful, it's unpredictable, and it can be really messy, right? It's not neat. And when you're grieving, that's part of the problem, is that you're struggling with the fact that it's not neat. So to keep on going with this grief example, if we go with a mainstream view of thoughts that matter, we can look at things like, well, how I'm perceiving the grief, how I'm perceiving, if I have an understanding of the stages of grief, how I'm perceiving other people in my relationships in this grief context. Well, that's all that matters, right? But what I've been given to show you is that what really matters the most are the thoughts that you're having about yourself, about how you're grieving. Okay, so if you're being self-critical, you're adding and saying, I shouldn't be grieving this way, I should be grieving that way, or whatever. You're adding another layer of pain and guilt to your experience of grief. So this is the critical area where if you can understand that your thoughts about yourself are the ones that matter the most. So let's just say you're experiencing the messy, unpredictable nature of grief. And then rather than being critical to yourself, you instead said, gosh, it's understandable that I'm experiencing grief this way. It's understandable that my grief is messy, because you know what? Grief is messy. See how that is lighter. See how that is easier. See how that is kinder to yourself. So there's an example of it's the thoughts that you have about yourself that matter the most. Coming up after the break, we're going to finish our conversation about this, and I'm going to go through and give the consultations to Ari, Michelle, Melissa, and Fran. Stick with me. I love this.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together. every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to I Am Wisdom with Katrina Cavanough. Today on the show, we're just finishing our conversation about what has death and dying got to do with happiness, and I want to make sure we're really clear about that. So if we accept the things we've been talking about are being present in the moment. So if you've been listening, you'll understand that, being present in the moment is one of the things that I've learned as a result of my experience with over 400 deaths. And of course, when you live more present, with more awareness and presence in the moment, most importantly of the magnificent energy that you are the flow, that you are the same energy as God, the universe, and all that kind of thing. Then of course, and then obviously being present in the moment, enjoying the flowers before you, enjoying your child's face when it's there telling you a story, that of course lends itself to absolutely more happiness and peace and contentment. The other thing that I believe is a key to the connection between happiness and our experience of death and dying and grief is compassion. Because when we understand death more, we are reminded that we are vulnerable. We are all vulnerable. And in particular, when we're faced with a sudden and unexpected death of someone close to us, we are, again, really in a state of pain and exposed. And it reminds us of our own mortality. And when we're feeling emotionally exposed, there's only one remedy, and that's compassion. So it can be through our experience of death and dying and grief that we get to practice compassion, both compassion for others and compassion for ourselves. And then we can take our connection with compassion that we build in that moment of grief, and we can take that into our life, right? Our real life afterwards, or during and afterwards. And of course, compassion, there is a direct link between compassion and happiness, because the very compassion that you practice when you're experiencing grief is the same compassion that you can use in a state of kindness to yourself when you're struggling with that work assignment, or that relationship that's tricky, or having the conversation with your partner that's really difficult as well. So compassion is a key ingredient to happiness, directly linked, and sometimes it can be in the craziest of places. It can be in the process of death and dying, it can be in the experience of grief that we learn to connect with it and make a connection and experience it, and we can then take it forward into the rest of our life. And thirdly, the area of thoughts matter. We talked about that at length before the break. When we realize that our thoughts matter, and it's the ones that we have ourselves that matter the most, then of course we're going to live life in a really much happier way, because what that gives us is peace of mind. When we can see ourselves through a lens of compassion, that's what gives us peace of mind. And it's that peace of mind that, of course, gives us freedom and ease. And within that freedom and ease, guess what? You can laugh more. When I live this way and I'm in that complete state of awareness, my God, I find it's just lighter and funnier and happier and more delightful and wonderful. And it's just so great. So I invite you to consider all of those elements. If you would like my assistance to incorporate some of those elements into your own life, then please visit my page, my Facebook page. I've already told you the address, facebook.com/Katrina Cavanough for those who've just tuned in, or obviously my webpage, katrinacavanough.com. Cavanaugh's a funny spelling. A lot of people pronounce it Cavanough, Cavanough. Now, for all those who've been waiting, we now have 10 minutes left of the show. So what I'm going to do is go through those people that I've promised to answer your questions. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Ari. I'm just finding your thing here. Okay, Ari. Sorry, but that was the background music. So Ari says to me, hoping you can help me heal and move on. I feel Mark, my former mate, is my twin flame. But since our breakup, I can't hear my inner voice. I'm doubting my intuition. I'm trying to find my way. Have a great day. Ari, I want to say to you, I'm going to take a deep breath and set the intention to be of service to you all. Look, I see Mark, the energy of Mark, circling back into your life. I just see him around you still. I think I said that to you before. I just see a circle, the energy of himself circling back into your life, your paths crossing again. And at that point of connection, there's a lot of reflection and understanding. You get to explain to him your thoughts and feelings about what's happened. And I can see him really hearing you and really getting it, and then him sharing something with you that makes you go, wow, yes, I understand now. I feel like there's some gaps in the information, you're having difficulty understanding why the separation, why you aren't together, why the breakup, and there's some information that he needs to tell you that's something to do with, I think, something to do with his family, the females in his family, I want to say. And it's got, and when you're given that information, whilst you don't like it, it helps you understand why you are in the situation that you are in. Okay. I see that conversation happening, and I do feel at that point in time you're both at a crossroads where you may decide to rekindle the relationship. It wouldn't be surprised if for some time you do that, and enjoy each other's company. Moving forward, I think you'll have a choice then, Ari, about whether you want to stay in the place of of what he has to offer you, or whether you want to move forward in your life. And I'm not being shown yet what that decision is, because at the moment it's all about the reconnection and the healing that needs to take place in that relationship. Okay, but I do see that happening. I want you to know that that your inner voice, your intuition, is something that we do begin to doubt. All of us do, me included. Back years ago, I used to have the same experience, and I think, my God, where's it gone? It's gone. And this is also for you, Melissa Carlson, right? But I'm going to talk to you more specifically. It's gone. Where's my intuition? You know, and all that's happened is it hasn't gone anywhere. It's the pain and the agony and the discomfort that you're feeling in the separation, or whatever it's caught your that's interrupting your awareness of the flow of who you are. So anything that's sad and yucky or heavy feeling in our lives can do that. And it can do that when we're not really living in awareness of who we naturally are. So that's the critical point, because when you're in awareness of who you naturally are, when the sad time comes, you just simply, you can't change who you are, right? You know, if you know your God energy, which is basically intuition or universal consciousness energy, you are that, then, which is infinite intuition as well, infinite wisdom, then that can't be changed. You are the flow. So I would like to support you both to get in that place of awareness of yourself, and therefore you'll be able to not need to trust your intuition, because you just will know it's there, and be able to feel more comfortable and at ease with it, because it would be like, your heart's beating, you can rely on your heart beating, your right arm can move and do things. It's like that kind of awareness. And so for both of you, Ari and Melissa, read your intuition. What I want to say is that it's something that you can maintain a connection with. Understand that self-doubt is completely okay, completely natural. But what I want you to do is make more of a connection with yourself as all that you are. And as you do that every single day, practice, for example, Wayne Dyer's got some wonderful I am meditation, I am that I am meditation musics, that's attached to his book, that I'm really enjoying at the moment. Something about intention, the power of intention. Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. He has a wonderful series of meditation CDs to connect you with the energy that I am, God, I am that I am. Okay, so I'm encouraging you to do something like that. I hope that's useful to you, Ari. Michelle, I'm interested, as you saying, I'm very interested in about a particular relationship of mine and where is it headed. Michelle, when I was tuning into that, what I see for you is I can see there's some confusion, and I feel like there's someone who's giving you mixed messages. This person that you're referring to, you've kept it very private, and I'm going to do so too, because we're on radio here, right? But I'm not going to name up who I think it is, but I can see the confusion, the mixed messages, and I'm wanting you to know that what you need to do is become really, really clear with that person. This is what I need from you. This is how I need to experience my relationship with you. And basically it's a relationship boundary stuff. And I think when that happens, then what will happen is you'll feel free to move forward, and the other person will literally sort themselves out. Okay, I hope that's been helpful to you. That's very clear and very straightforward. They seem to be in a bit of a muddle, this person. They're a bit all over the place. So I can see why you're confused about where it's headed. Melissa Carlson, back to you. How can I learn to trust my intuition more, especially when it comes to making big decisions? Again, I think I've covered that already with really you transcending the awareness of yourself here and your intuition over there. Okay, it is not separate, it is one. You are one. So I want to encourage you to see that you are one and you are connected. And if you decide to come along to that workshop of mine, then we'll be talking about that in more detail at the next workshop. Okay, hope that's helpful. And finally, Fran Pritchard, where are you? Will I meet the man for me soon, Fran? I understand this question. It is a tough area when we're feeling alone and not connected. Human beings are social creatures, so I am absolutely in support of people wanting the answer to this question. Let me have a look for you, Fran. Yes, Fran. Fran, I see someone really, really close with wanting in a relationship, actually. I don't feel like you're actually aware of them. If they're not in your life right now, it's coming up very quickly. I'm being given the number 2, so that could be 2 weeks, 2 days, or 2 months. And this person is really soft and kind and caring. If anything, they could be a little bit suffocating. So what I want to say to you is I want you to be really clear about your boundaries, okay? Because whilst the initial attention might be all right, but it's going to get a bit frustrating and suffocating. So I'm going to talk to you about having really clear boundaries and moving forward. And then that person will, get on board and be in alignment with you. I may see you actually, there's someone coming in like that actually. Sorry, I'm just getting more of the vision. I think you might work with boundaries with that person, but then you step outside. But they're a nice, interesting interlude in the meantime. And then what I see for you beyond the person that's attached to 2 is I do see someone waiting for you in your future. They're much more, I like their energy much better. There's more boundaries around them. They're more connected. They're much more of interest to you and able to meet with you on an equal basis. And for that person, I get a 5 or a 6. Time's tricky in the non-physical world, but I'll just give you what I get. And so we're talking 5 weeks or 5 months. And they're a good person and they're going to be a good fit for you. I hope that's helpful. You've been listening to I Am Wisdom with Katrina Cavanough. We've reached the end of the show, run out of time. Isn't it wonderful that there's so much to talk about? I love being of service. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you have a really, really, really wonderful week.